Hello YouTube, this is Cap and Ball again, and I have a very special gun for you today as usual. This is the Augustin tube lock cavalry pistol from the first half of the 19th century. In the Habsburg army, the tube lock was an alternative for the normal percussion cap ignition system, and our monarchy chose this kind of method for three main reasons. First of all, economics. They were looking for some kind of cheap method of conversion for the flintlock muskets without touching the barrel and only changing a few parts of the lock. The second reason was the drill itself. It was an extremely slow and painful process to teach the soldiers of the multi-language monarchy the handling of the musket, the loading procedures, so they needed something that is very close to the old flintlock methods. And the last reason was the short-minded leadership of the Habsburg army.
The first version of the percussion tube came from a customs officer from Milan. Giuseppe Console was working on modernizing the ignition system of artillery pieces. He patented his system in 1831. The principle was simple. He loaded some black powder mixed with potassium chlorate into a piece of straw. The hammer hit the straw, igniting the compound, resulting in a hot, fast ignition without the need of flint and steel. Console started to experiment with using the same method on handheld firearms also. His idea was really simple. Just three parts of the lock had to be changed. A new pen was needed. The frizzen had to be changed to a new, modified piece, and the steel block had to be put into the jaws of the hammer, replacing the flint. The new cover was shot on the priming tube. Upon firing, the hammer fell on the cover, and the sharp edge exploded the tube. He also designed a new cartridge system, a self-opening paper tube. The priming tube was attached to a felt wad, closing the cartridge. It was an ingenious design, as there was no need to bite the end of the paper tube for opening the charge.
However, not everybody was happy with the new idea. Beroaldo Bianchini liked the concept, but he was not satisfied with the cartridge and the lock. He had 4 reasons to ask for improvements.
The head of the arsenal had problems with the lid, accidentally setting off the tubes upon closing, the 2 long wires falling in the cartridge box, the unprotected percussion tubes, and the flash of the tubes hurting the soldiers' eyes.
And there were also problems with the fitting of the locks, as military standards were not followed properly by the firearms makers by those times.
A young Austrian officer who was born in the city of Pest in Hungary, named Vincenz Augustin, had to solve these problems. First he redesigned the lock and added a small firing pin called a tus or zan to the lid, to avoid accidental discharge. This small free-floating part was weighing only 8 grams. Second, he added a modified nipple to the bore to position the touch hole with the percussion tube. Third, he redesigned the lid to cover the exploding percussion tube completely. He also modified the cartridge. He simplified the rolling process and got back to the old design from the self-opening system. He placed the percussion tube under the folded end to protect it from accidental discharge in the cartridge box. As the percussion tube was attached to the cartridge, it was much more convenient for the rough hands of the average soldier than the regular caps.
And let's get into some experimental archaeology now. But the main problem with shooting these pistols is the percussion tube itself, which is not available in the shops now. So if you want to shoot this pistol, you have to make your own. Here's how I do it.
Augustin changed the straw to a brass tube and replaced the ignition compound with mercury fulminate, resulting in a waterproof tube and a better ignition. They say that majority of good things in life starts with opening a can of beer. And making the tube is not an exception, as the cheapest replacement of the brass sheet is the aluminium of the can. So sometimes you really have to drink a good beer for the glory of science. But please never ever do it before handling cartridges or shooting. The process starts with cutting the proper size sheets. You will need a square of 2.5 by 2.5 centimeters. Now cut off one corner. Use a 2 mm drill or any kind of metal rod and roll up the sheet. Now squeeze the thicker end with pliers. And there you go, your first percussion tube is ready. As a percussion compound, you can use the good old child toy roll caps with stuffing 4 or 5 spots into the tube. You can also use the ignition powder from a normal musket cap, but if you choose this method, don't forget to wear eye protection. You will need the powder from 2 percussion caps for 1 tube. Back in the 19th century, after filling the tubes, they were submerged into varnish to waterproof them, but we can skip this step now.
Vincenz Augustin not just changed the lock itself, but modernized the complete production method as well. He standardized all the manufacturing processes to reach a high level of interchangeability, and he modernized the complete arms industry of the Habsburg monarchy. He did a great work, but after all these changes, a very important goal could not be reached. Only a very little portion of the old flintlock muskets could be used for the conversion, so after all the Habsburg army could not save money on the conversion, but he had to replace nearly all the small arms in service. Ladies and gentlemen, we are ready for some range time. Come with me and see how this old lady performs.
The pair of pistols were the standard firearms of every mounted soldier in the army of the Habsburg monarchy. An average soldier received 10 cartridges in peacetime and 38 in war. The standard pistol cartridge held 3.85 grams or 60 grains of musket powder, a near equivalent to the Swiss 1.5F black powder. The caliber of the bore was 17.1 mm, while the ball was only 15.9 mm, leaving a 1.2 mm gap to be filled by the paper of the cartridge. One unique feature of the Austrian pistols and cavalry carbines is they don't have channel for the ramrods, as the ramrod was attached to the strap of the cartridge box. The loading process is quick and easy. It is not hard to load the pistol in half a minute. The tubes fit well into the flash hole, and I was happy to see that the tools did not set them off when I closed the lid, so Augustin was right. As usual, I started the fun with firing 5 shots to 25 meters from a rest. The ignition was fast, and the first shot was on target, resulting a lethal hit.
Let's see what we have here. It had a very heavy kick, but it's a great fun to shoot this kind of old piece. This was the first shot. It was, let's call it, falling shot. And here are the 5 shots I fired in a row. All lethal at 25 meters. Not that bad.
Let's see the same shot offhand. The cavalrymen fired their pistols offhand and single-handed, of course, and usually they used the left hand as the right was needed for the sword or saber.
The first faulty percussion tube. Let's get another one. Good old boy. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this happened to me many times before, that it seems to me that my offhand group is much better than what I shot from the rest. Don't tell me why. It's a miracle. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it's a quite a good group. The pistol is a bit to the left, but who cares about this?
The effective range of the smoothbore cavalry pistol was not more than 20-25 meters according to the old manuals. But let's not forget that the soldier was firing the gun on horseback and in battle, which is absolutely not equivalent to my peaceful range times.
Ladies and gentlemen, I really hope you liked my little time travel again, and if you like what you see, then please do not forget to hit the subscribe button. You've been watching the Cap and Ball YouTube channel, and stay cool and keep your powder dry.